following program is intended for mature audiences.
All right. Hello. You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
I don't mean this to sound condescending, Zach, and if it does, I apologize.
Okay.
But I am just so impressed that you, as young as you are, have such a grasp on the legend of Muhammad Ali. It's really cool because he was so far before your time. I just think it's great.
I think I alluded to it when I made my post in the thread, but it's like neither Mike or I, neither of us saw Ali fight ever. I never saw his speeches. I wasn't around for his political activism, his racial relations, his conversations with Howard Cosell, any of that stuff. But when I tried to think back on it, I don't remember a time where I didn't know about Muhammad Ali. The first thing you learn about Muhammad Ali from the start is he is the greatest. Not the greatest of all time, not the greatest boxer of all time, just the greatest. And you know, you see all the outpour and the reaction to it, and you go back and just look at what kind of an influential figure he was as just a boxer at the time. To be so influential on a worldwide scale, really, is absolutely incredible. And I think there's nothing else. You know, it's hard to kind of put a point on exactly what Muhammad Ali was, or like what was his greatest feat, or any of that. The only thing to say is that he is the greatest. Period. End of statement. Because you could go on for hours, but if you wanted to boil it down, he is the greatest. If somebody doesn't recognize that, and I mean, you've seen plenty of dumb things by, there was that Republican senator somewhere.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Like, you know, he refused to call him by his Islamic name, wanted to call him by his slave name or whatever. But you know, for anybody with a clear head on their shoulders, Muhammad Ali is the greatest. Period. That's it, really.
I put in the thread on the CCSLC that if you took Jordan, LeBron, and Peyton Manning and combined their popularity, that's a good start to just how popular Muhammad Ali was in his heyday. At the peak of his popularity, I can't recall anyone ever being as big as Muhammad Ali was in like the 70s. And you're right, you can't really sit down and go, this is what made him the greatest, or this is what made him the legend that he is. He's just Ali, and that's just the best way to put it. I was telling Zach while you were off, Mike, that I actually have a story about Muhammad Ali. There's this thing called the National Sports Collectors Convention. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's this giant memorabilia show they have every year. Some years it's in LA or in California, then it's in the East. And it was in Cleveland one year, and they were, it was like just a lineup, like a who's who of Hall of Fame athletes that were at this thing signing autographs. Kareem was there, Hank Aaron, Mike Schmidt. I mean, just names, Joe Namath. You know, just the list went on and on and on. There were probably, I don't know, at any given point, 1,500 people in this building at the IX Center in Cleveland. And these guys would come in and they would announce, like, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is signing right now, and the people that had bought tickets would go up, and that was it. But nothing really kind of happens. It's like, oh, you know, okay, I've got a Kareem ticket, I'm going to go sign. Then Ali showed up, and honest to God, I mean, when he walked into the room, the whole place just stopped dead in its tracks because he was there. He was just so much bigger than all the rest of these guys, and it was just like, wow, you know, we're in the same room with Ali. I mean, that's just to give you an idea of just the popularity that he was. And I'm not even a boxing fan. He was just such a huge figure that even just to walk into a room, like 1,000 people just stopped dead in their tracks and like immediately head towards where he was. He just had this quality about him that just made him like this superstar beyond compare, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you think about. If anyone at any time had said, "Oh, you know, the champ is coming," would you ask what champ?
Nope.
If someone just said the champ,
nope.
You go, "Oh, Ali's here. Ali's coming. Ali's going to be there. Ali's going to throw out the first pitch.
Yeah,
he's going to be speaking at whatever." Obviously, he didn't do too much of that in his later years. But I think the other thing with when it comes to him in his later years too, is even though he was, very much kind of silenced and crippled by the Parkinson's disease in terms of what he could do and his actions, even when he had that kind of frail state about him, he never seemed frail.
No.
He commanded just as much attention in his kind of shaky Parkinson's state as he did when he was the heavyweight champion of the world. He commanded the same kind of respect and got the same reaction out of people almost every time. I think the thing that really stands out when you go back and look at Ali's kind of life, or at least in his career, he has all the wins, and you see some of the highlights of his fights, and he was just incredibly athletic and quick and big and strong and boisterous and all that stuff. But the thing that I've heard most people kind of go back to, which is what they think is probably the most important thing about him, not necessarily the stance he took, but that he took a stance in this way that, could you imagine any of the top athletes? Could you imagine Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Sidney Crosby or whoever in the prime of their career giving up their titles, their money, and 3 seasons because of a belief they had?
Never.
Would any of these guys stand up and give up the prime 3 years of the prime of their career, their best time to be making money or winning championships, to fight for some cause?
No. For him to walk away from the prime of his career, and knows how many millions of dollars he left on the table doing that. I just keep going back to, like you said, if you say the champ, you're not thinking of anybody else. I think that, we don't want to belabor the point or anything, but just that we're likely never to see a guy with that kind of fame and that kind of just recognition ever again. I guess that's a question I wanted to ask you guys. They say that what would it have been like if Ali had been around in this day and age with social media and all that? I don't think he becomes as popular.
I mean, a lot of what made him him was that he was so outspoken at a time where it was considered taboo to do that sort of thing. And I mean, now it almost seems like you have a whole slew of athletes in most sports, aside from hockey. Hockey is still very kind of humdrum of how its athletes carry themselves. But, in the other, big 3 sports, you have, the quote-unquote prima donna athletes who honestly I think are trying to channel Muhammad Ali in some capacity. Like when Terrell Owens would make a jackass of himself, I think in his mind he was trying to be that outspoken character.
Clearly just in his mind doing sit-ups in his driveway.
Oh, definitely. And of course, Twitter today basically means that anyone, be they famous or not, has an outlet to just say whatever thought happens to pop into their mind and broadcast it to the entire world. And so, I think part of what kind of built up Muhammad Ali was that he was that kind of person who was not afraid to speak his mind in an era where you just didn't do that.
Oh, especially if you were a black athlete, you didn't do it.
Oh,
black Muslim athletes.
Well, I mean, that's what I wanted to bring up. I mean, you think about when he started this, he won the gold medal in the Olympics in 1960. And I want to say that he won the title from Sonny Liston in 64, I think. And you think about this for a second. This is 1964. Segregation is still going strong in the South. And you've got this black athlete, in a time where they were still dragging people out and lynching them in the South, being as outspoken as Ali was. To me, that takes, I don't know if that's just a remarkable amount of stupidity or a lot of guts. I don't know which.
I think it's a very fine line, and I think what put him on the guts side of that line was simply the fact that he had a charismatic element to himself that just... Okay, I'm going to bring professional wrestling into it, and I don't mean to do that in any ridiculous way. But in pro wrestling, when you're talking about wrestlers, I mean, there's something called the it factor. Mm-hmm. And the way that you describe it is, it's like, okay, one of the most popular archetypes of a pro wrestling character is just, the big bruiser who goes up, beats the crap out of people in like under a minute and wins big all the time. And that's easy. It's easy to do. It's easy to book, and it's easy to get someone to do that character. But so many people have completely failed to resonate with the fan base, as well. People like Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, for example, became huge stars doing just that. So the question is, what separates someone like Bobby Lashley, who tried to do that and never got anywhere, to Bill Goldberg, who basically did the same exact act and became, a multi-millionaire, media star out of it. And at the end of the day, it's Goldberg had the it factor. There's no explaining it. It's just he had a certain screen presence, right? And I think that's sort of what separated Muhammad Ali. I know if you want to talk about stupidity versus guts, I think that it factor is what put him on the guts side of it. Because, okay, anyone can be an idiot. Anyone can lack, the common sense to do something that all logic says they shouldn't do. But if you have the it factor, you have that certain amount of swagger, you get away with it.
I think with Ali, too, by compared to a guy like a T.O. or, I don't know, some of the other athletes that try to be a personality like that and it just doesn't work, people don't like it. There was always, at least to me, with Ali, there was always kind of like this tongue-in-cheek factor to it. I mean, he was serious in what he was saying. He really believed he was as good as he said he was. But there was always kind of like this little, nod and a wink thing to it. I'm saying this, but you could always tell that there was always an undercurrent of it just being for fun. And maybe that's what you mean, Mike, when you say the it factor, the thing where it just separates it from just being an asshole to being entertainment. And Ali certainly had that by the bucket.
The it factor is something that by its very nature you can't explain. I think you came the closest, Greg, where there's always sort of like this tongue-in-cheek where you just watch them and it's like, yeah, there's a bit of fun to it. They're going out, they're doing they're putting on this character, but there's almost this unspoken sort of understanding between everyone involved. It's a show. There's a lot of hey, we're all just sort of having fun here. Very few people have that.
My favorite Ali quote, and I have it pulled up so that I don't misquote it, is kind of an exact version of that. Mm-hmm. It's, I done wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I handcuffed lightning and thrown thunder in jail. Mm-hmm. Only last week I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick. It's like, who can say that with a straight face and mean it? But Muhammad Ali. It's like, if T.O. had said that garbage, we'd be like, oh, what an asshole.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, anyone could say that, right? And anyone could say that with a cocky attitude. But it takes a very certain select type of person to say it with that type of attitude and make everyone else go, okay, that was cool.
To me, I just marvel at just how much of I don't know if celebrity is not the right word, but just a worldwide figure that he was. Just it blows my mind. ESPN
would say beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was now. Don't know what that means.
Still don't to this day. We still don't know what it means. But anyway, yeah, that's just, like with Ali, it's just a guy that you just can't describe, but everybody knows who he is. And I think Zach put it best. If you say the champ, everybody knows who you're talking about. That's as big as it gets.
I just wanted to say from a historical perspective, you can't really understate how important he is in the historiographical view of the United States, because you look at Muhammad Ali and just what he did, becoming an outspoken black Muslim heavyweight champion in the early 60s in the United States, and his opposition to the Vietnam War. It just seems you couldn't ask for a better historical figure if you wanted to try to explain to someone just how turbulent that period of American history was. If you wanted to say to someone, this is how the 1960s in America unfolded, just look at the story of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the kind of what you said it there in one point, and it's something that I know, Greg, you saw, because HBO Sports, they had a boxing broadcast over the weekend, and they put out a very fantastic little retrospective on Ali. And the one thing that stuck out from it for me was nothing you say about Muhammad Ali is overstated. Whatever you want to say about him, whether he was the greatest boxer, to some he is. Was he the greatest personality in sports? To some he is. Is he the most influential sports figure when it comes to politics or race relations in the world ever? Maybe. And, you could say all those things and you could probably back him up. Just the same way where he always said that he was the greatest. And the one thing about Ali is that, well, he backed it up. Nothing about Muhammad Ali can be overstated.
Boxing today, I couldn't tell you who the heavyweight champ is. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's one of the Klitschko's. One of those.
Well, aren't there like 5 separate world heavyweight champs now? Like the boxing world heavyweight title is so splintered now that it doesn't really being the heavyweight champion doesn't even matter.
Right. Well, I think it's not even that what belt you have. The thing is that since the 90s, Tyson was the last heavyweight of any real consequence. Since then, all the biggest, well, not necessarily size-wise, but most popular boxers have all started to trend towards middleweights and featherweights. You think of Oscar De La Hoya and then Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. They're all small guys.
Mayweather playing defense for 90% of a boxing match is pretty much killed whatever goodwill boxing had left. But
you talk to boxing people and there are some interesting figures, and I've listened. I've taken the time to listen to them, and it's like, yeah, sure, that can be interesting, but I just don't. No one's going to pay $50 for a boxing pay-per-view anymore.
I was just going to ask that: is there a boxing match of the boxers that we've heard of today that you would pay money to see?
I think the last one was Pacquiao Mayweather, and then that happened.
And it took forever to happen, too.
And then once it happened, everyone bought the pay-per-view, and I guarantee you that a rematch isn't going to do nearly as much business after that fight.
Well, that's the thing. But any of the three of us did, I don't know if you guys did or not, but I had virtually – Sure, it was like, okay, I wonder who won. That was the extent of my interest in it. Like, okay, who won?
I watched that. I watched it on Snapchat and on Periscope. That's how I watched that fight.
I didn't pay for the fight, but I was at a friend's house and he paid for it. So
yeah, no,
I don't know if that counts. I essentially got it for free. So,
boxing is like a big time event though died because the big monstrous pure athletes that we saw with the Tysons and the Alis and the Foremans and the Frasers. Those guys don't exist anymore. They don't matter anymore.
Right now,
the other problem is when you would have these two big boxers or the most important fighters, they wouldn't fight each other because they don't want to lose and potentially lose out on their money. And that's why we waited forever to have freaking Pacquiao Mayweather. And that's why when it did happen, not only if the fight was maybe 5 years earlier, maybe Pacquiao gives him a better fight. But the styles don't matter anyway. Once it finally happened, it was like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this now. Like 10 years ago, it would have been the biggest thing on the planet, and now it's like, well, we don't care. Like just have it, tell us who wins, and we'll decision.
We haven't seen a boxer, I think, since Mike Tyson probably, where no matter who he fought, you were kind of interested in it. Maybe not as interested as like a Tyson, Holyfield, or that type of thing, but. He was a guy that always got your attention, and I think Mike is right that I don't know if the ear bite was the nadir of boxing, maybe it was, but by that point it was so headed down the other side of the hill, because I know that I want to say in '75, speaking of Ali again, and a lot of people say this was the inspiration for the movie Rocky. He fought a guy named Chuck Wepner at the Cleveland Coliseum. Wepner was a nobody, and I want to say that the thing sold out, and everybody, because it was Ali, you wanted to see it, but I can't imagine that happening today in boxing. I just can't imagine it. It's a dead sport, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, my whole thing with the ear biting is, I think, because you guys have said that Tyson was the last heavyweight champ who anyone really cared about, and I think that when Tyson bit the ear, I think that sort of irreparably damaged boxing. It was already kind of trending downhill by that point, but I think that really put it past the point of no return, because now the most marketable champion the sport has been exposed as a lunatic.
Yeah.
Who probably shouldn't be fighting people, professionally or otherwise. And so you basically take boxing, their last gasp for relevancy. You take away their biggest star, and there really isn't anyone. I mean, sure, there were probably quote unquote better fighters. Holyfield, I think, was probably Tyson's equal or just a bit better at least, but he wasn't a star.
The last half of Tyson's career, he was fighting a lot of cardboard boxes.
Yeah. But I mean, Holyfield, while a very good boxer, was not a star, right? Not the same way that Tyson was. So it's
he was an accomplished boxer, but yeah, not Tyson.
But once Tyson bit the ear and he gets taken out of the picture and everyone's sort of disgusted by what happened, now boxing's kind of left with this black mark on it, and they don't even have a superstar to get people excited for it. And I don't think it's ever recovered from that.
I think another thing that hurts it too is that you see what it did to people. I mean, you saw what it did to Ali. Joe Frazier, I said this on the boards, if you could understand a word that man said in the last 10 years of his life, you were some sort of linguist of just amazing talent. Because you couldn't understand a word he said, and it wasn't because he was stupid or couldn't talk, because if you watch interviews with Frazier from the 70s, he was a pretty articulate guy. And to hear him like in 2001 or 2002, I don't remember when he died, but it was just gibberish. And I think that hurt too, boxing. Is like you take these beloved figures like an Ali, a Frazier, and you see, like, as the years go on, how much it affected them. Now, a lot of that may have been because they held on too long, who knows, but it just started losing some of its appeal. And then you get Tyson biting somebody's ear off. And then there was, I'm sure, scandal after scandal. I can't think of any of them now, but it's just a sport that went from something that was up there at the same level of like the Big Four for a time to kind of like this back alley sleazy type deal that people just aren't into anymore.
And then you've got other things. You've got you got mixed martial arts, MMA. Right. I think that has proven that there's still an appetite for competitive fighting. It's just that, quite frankly, to be perfectly honest, the MMA, UFC and their competitors have found ways to make competitive fighting more advantageous. I was talking about this with a friend of mine maybe about a month ago. And it's like, look, for our generation, Zach and I's generation, if we are going to go over to someone's place to watch, quote unquote, the fight, 9 times out of 10, it's an MMA fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, two things on that. And like the first one is like a reference where boxing guys weren't fighting each other. The one thing the UFC has done is they make sure that their top fighters are fighting each other for titles. And so they make it a thing. But the second thing is, this is kind of a tease for later because it's something I want to bring up. I don't care anymore about UFC because of one thing, and I am boycotting any UFC fight. I will not watch another UFC fight after what they did this week.
We'll definitely get to that. But I guess what I'm getting at, talking about our generation, is that boxing just kind of seems antiquated by comparison because UFC, mixed martial arts in general, it's very fast paced.
Right.
It's not punching guys in the head. It's moving around. It's kicking.
It's moving around.
A lot of things.
It's wrestling. It's wrestling. It's jujitsu. It's all. It's in the name, mixed martial arts. Whereas boxing seems just so regulated. It's like two guys and they've got oversized gloves on their hands. And they punch each other, but it's like, oh, okay, now everyone go back to their corner for a timeout, and then they're going to come back out. Like, it all seems so regulated, and I know boxing is by no means a safe sport, but it just seems so tame in comparison to UFC or, MMA in general. Where
I read an article a few years ago about MMA, and I could swear, I'll have to look it up to see if this is true or not, but I could swear that in this article, they said that, believe it or not, mixed martial arts is actually safer than boxing.
Yeah.
You would never think that it would be by looking at it, but it is. But what I wanted to bring up about it, too, why it has, I think, a bigger appeal than boxing does, and let's be honest about it, you got a much better chance of seeing a dude get knocked sillier than shit in an MMA match than you do in a boxing match. There are a lot of boxing matches that will go 12 rounds where you see a whole lot of nothing. I mean, Pacquiao Mayweather is a good example of that. Mixed martial arts, there's always that chance some guy's going to get kicked in the side of the head, and I mean, let's be honest about it. That's kind of part of why you watch. So I think it is more appealing. It's faster paced, and in this day and age, you can't be slow and methodical. I mean, ask baseball, and boxing by comparison is kind of slow and methodical to MMA. So of course, it's going to be more popular.
MMA draws more blood, but with boxing with the repeated punches to the head. Mm-hmm. It's not always knockouts, but just the constant punches to the head, and like we've seen in football with linemen and just hitting the helmet over and over again. That's more dangerous in the long term than getting your eye cut open or breaking an arm
or like in a lot of MMA fights, right? They end by submission, where it hurts, but you go down, someone gets you in a hold that you can't escape from, you tap out, fight's over. Whereas in boxing, if a match ends quickly, it's because you got hit in the head really goddamn hard and couldn't get up.
Well, I was watching this video today. Oh, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. And like another thing, if you even want to talk about knockouts, sure, MMA has knockouts, but they're more frequent. Where one, if you get knocked out, if you lose in an MMA fight, it's likely because someone kicked you in the head really hard and you went down, and that's obviously not good for your health. But long term, it's probably healthier to lose a couple fights by getting kicked in the head than it is to go a couple boxing matches, 12 rounds each, where you're constantly being pummeled in the head the entire time. Mm-hmm. So I think, hits per – I don't know if I'm using this term right, but it almost seems like you get more hits per capita in boxing than MMA. Sure. and in boxing, even though it might seem tamer and it's definitely more slower paced, you probably, as a fighter, occur more damage over the period of a career than it is in MMA, where maybe you take one or two really bad hits a match, and most of the time if you lose, it's by submission anyway, so it's not really long-term damage to your head.
Well, I was watching these videos. I was watching these videos today. I was looking up stuff on Ali, and I ran across this thing called the 10 scariest knockouts you've ever seen in boxing. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff, I was like, how did that person get up from that? It's just they get hit so hard. And you got to think, now those are the shots that connected perfectly and knocked them out. How many of those did they take throughout the course of that bout where you'd get tagged, maybe not like a knockout punch, but you're still getting hit pretty good in the head?
I mean,
20, 30 times a round, probably? I mean, I don't know.
Now we're going really far back to like the 20s and 30s, but Max Baer, when he was the heavyweight champion of the world, killed someone.
Yeah. So did what's his name? Ray Mancini, I think was his name. Yeah.
So I mean, MMA can be brutal, but as far as I know, no one's been killed in either UFC or another one of the big MMA organizations. Like, right. I'm sure there's seedy groups out there, but I'm talking about like the reputable fighting groups. No one dies.
I think no one's died in the ring, but I believe there's been at least one or two that have died of injuries later.
I think I've heard that too.
Yeah, but nothing like on the mat. No, nothing like that.
Finals, wow.
So
let's start with the one that hits closest to home, Greg. The NBA Finals.
So
your Cavaliers look worse than they did last year when they're supposedly healthier.
I know.
And now they lose Kevin Love, and they lost by 33 points.
So remember, Greg, when the Cavs beat the Raptors, and some Cleveland fan was giving me a hard time, and I was like, congrats on getting the right to get blown out by Golden State.
That fan wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't you. But then you came in and you just quoted what I had said, and you just responded, "We'll see."
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's fair.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I picked the Cavs too. This is surprising too.
Yeah, I just said we'll see. I mean, I wasn't saying one way or the other. I just said we'll see. Now, granted, I meant more of we'll see. But now I'm going to retract that and go, well, I just meant you never know. I don't even know where to start with this. How could they be better last year than they were this year? I mean, they had LeBron and a bunch of guys named Dellavedova.
The thing that I saw that somebody tried to explain was they play differently when they don't have Love on the court. They play a little bit more small ball, defensive minded, and that matches up better with what the Warriors do.
It almost has to, right?
Right, and I mean, it makes sense if somebody explains it that way, but I mean, I'm no expert, but there's something not right. And LeBron is, if they'll follow LeBron either, he's doing all he can. Just the rest of that team isn't pulling their weight. And now that they get Kevin Love out, and the thing was, like, you come in here and you think they're healthy and they have everybody, and we thought that if they were healthy last year, they could have beat the Warriors. But the Warriors have gone through all their battles. It looks like they're just here for the victory lap in the finals.
It's what I said last week, that if that Golden State would be tough to beat if they could pull it out against Oklahoma City, because that was their first real challenge of the playoffs, and Oklahoma City had them dead to rights, and Golden State came back and won it. And I think to them, that kind of codified in their mind that, no, we're not going to choke this great season away. We are the team of destiny, and now they just look like they will not be denied.
I also think that the Warriors have a gear that the Cavs just don't have. The Warriors just seem to be able to kick it up a notch, and I think that's what makes a championship team in any sport, is you've got a level that no one else can reach.
Yeah.
We saw it with the Blackhawks last year, through their cup runs, where they just had this thing. I mean, how many times we talk about it? The Blackhawks would be down 3-1 and be like, oh, they've got them right where they want them. I think the Warriors have that same type of thing where my God, I was watching it. It was just like the Cavs would get close, and then all of a sudden the Warriors would be like, okay, well, this was fun, but now it's time to really play. And it would go from the Cavs had the lead in game one for a while, and then all of a sudden they're down 20-some points. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
With the Warriors,
they're just a better team.
Yeah, you can have Steph Curry going off. You can have Klay Thompson going off. But if you have both of them clicking in all cylinders, and you get Draymond Green going for like 30 points like they did in the last game, you're not beating them.
And then they're bench.
All you want, but once they get rolling, they're not going to be stopped.
And their bench put up, I think, 39-5 versus the Cavs in game one. I mean, if you're going to get that kind of disparity in bench scoring, forget it. You've got no chance. But I was there too. I thought, hey, with a healthy Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving and LeBron, they played them tough last year. But I don't remember who brought it up, but I think it's not as good a matchup for them for the Cavs with Kevin Love and being healthy and all that. And I've never thought. I think Kevin Love's a great player. I don't think he's ever quite fit with the Cavaliers. It's like they don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And when you've got these coaches, and I don't know enough about the NBA to speak with any kind of authority on it, but it just seems to me that they don't really know how to get the best out of three really good players that they have. And Love just seems like the odd man out. And you've got it when you've got a guy like that, you've got to find a way to get him involved.
I think this is kind of a point back to a negative point to LeBron being the de facto GM sort of thing. Because look at the coaches they put in too. Like David Blatt was just a suit to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
And Tyronn Lue is, I'm friends with everyone. I used to be a player. And it's like, well, yeah, but are you coaching this team? Like, compare what Steve Kerr has been doing in Golden State to what the David Blatt, Tyronn Lue tenure of the Cavaliers has done. And I think the Cavaliers have been spurred on mostly by the ability of LeBron. And the Golden State Warriors, while they have the great talent that they do with Steph Curry and the like, I think Steve Kerr is just a pretty damn good coach.
Yeah, he's a really good coach.
He learned a fair amount from all those titles he won with Phil Jackson. And didn't he play with the Spurs and Popovich too?
I want to say he did, yeah.
So...
But that's the thing. I with the Cavs, I know that the model for success these days is to have a big three. I'm not so sure that's going to work with a LeBron James team. I mean, it worked in Miami, but I don't know that, especially with the way Golden State's changed the game now, I think the Cavs are better off. I'm wondering now, I'm like thinking, okay, what if they had Wiggins instead? Here's a guy that they don't have to worry about getting the right amount of touches or whatever you want to call it. Here's a guy that he's a young player you don't have to worry about. I don't know. I don't know how Wiggins would have fit in either. That's what I mean.
He kind of that swing forward that would almost seem like he'd be in LeBron's way.
Yeah.
With the way LeBron plays. But I don't know. It's really kind of strange how it's kind of turned like that.
It's not over yet. I mean, they're only down 2-0, but the way they played so far, that was like watching the Warriors play the 76ers, those two games. They were just terrible.
I was watching the game last night with a group of my friends, And they're much bigger basketball fans than I am, and that's why we were having a little thing to watch it, of all things. If I'd asked them to come over today and watch the Cup final with me, they'd say no, but whatever. When I mentioned when you get these guys that they start getting on a roll, I think at the time we were having a discussion, I kind of compared it to hockey. When if there's a guy that's just starting to go off, you can get somebody on your team to just go kick his ass, to go send him headfirst into the boards somewhere, right? If you're the Cavaliers and you look down your lineup and you see that, Timothy Mozgov isn't doing anything, why don't you just go send him to hack the hell out of Steph Curry, or if any of one of those guys drives the lane, just have him there and chop his arm off, right? Just kind of mess with their psyche, get them a little rattled or something. But the Cavaliers have been kind of a path of least resistance. That they either back off and let them shoot, or they can't defend the lane and they cut in the middle. The Cavaliers have been kind of a mess.
Yeah. We thought the Cavs had a chance at winning. We liked their chances this year.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have been terribly surprised if the Cavs had lost 2 close games in Golden State. Okay, no problem. But to see this happen, this is just unbelievable.
Yeah. I think I saw where the combined margin of the first 2 games is the largest 2-game point margin in finals history.
But I also do want to say just one thing in defense of my Cleveland Cavaliers. We kind of keep forgetting that they're playing a team that went 73-9 this year. This is a good basketball team they're playing. So it's not like the Cavs were the prohibitive favorites coming in and they just didn't show up and look what's happening. But I don't think anybody saw this coming. I don't think anybody would be surprised by a 2-0 deficit at this point. But to see the way they just got their asses kicked both games, wow, unbelievable.
It's kind of funny the way these finals are playing out because you get the Warriors, they thought they were going away, and now they're on top of the world. They're world beaters. I'm sure that if you open up the paper, Bay Area, whatever Bay Area newspaper you pick up, the sports page, I'm sure the first 3 pages are going to be about the Warriors at the very least. And then you have another team that's also in the finals in the Bay Area, and probably no one even knows. With the poor Sharks, they won their first ever finals game yesterday.
Yeah.
For 2 days. How about that? Yeah, Sharkies.
Might be the only one to end up winning, but still not bad. I think. Okay, there's 2 things I want to bring up about this series. First, I'll get this out of the way quick. Do you think that I don't know? I think that Pittsburgh. Do we think Pittsburgh's a better team? I don't know, but do you think that with the Sharks, it might be a little bit of hey, we're just happy to be here? And I'm not saying that they're showing up thinking we're just happy to be here. We don't give a fuck what's happening. But you know what I mean.
I don't think so. I think, okay, we've kind of poked fun at it before. Zach's going to know what I'm talking about as soon as I say it. The crying Joe Thornton gif.
Oh, that's my fave.
I know, it's so good, right?
Oh God, my whole life. What have I worked for?
It's the gif of his reaction after they blew that 3-0 lead to the Kings a few years back. I think after that, I think people are forgetting that this is actually Thornton's first ever finals appearance in his career. He had never been there before. In his previous stint playing for Boston, he was never there. He was never there in the Sharks. I don't think Joe Thornton is just happy to be there after all the crap that he's been through.
Well, I'm not saying
I don't think he's like, well, it's all house money now. I think he legitimately does want to win.
No, I'm not saying that's not what I mean. I don't mean it's a conscious thing.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
No, I don't think it's a conscious thing where they're like, hey, I just think that it's just a subconscious thing where you're there and it happens. I'm not saying that they're all going, hey, you know what, we don't give a fuck what happens now because we're here. I don't mean it like that. I think they all want to win. I just think that that sometimes when you finally get over that hump and you're there, it's just kind of like that was the ultimate goal, and maybe you let down a little bit once you are there.
But no, I think you saw a little bit of that at the beginning of the game of game 1. But I mean, you look back at the 3 games; they've all been 1-goal games. 2 of them have been overtime. It's not like the Sharks are being. I think Pittsburgh has been outplaying them, but it's not like the Sharks are being taken out to school and thrown over the woodshed or anything.
Well, that's the second.
They're in all these games.
That's the second point I wanted to bring up. We know that the NBA is more popular than the NHL, and this is a theme that this has been a theme of the show for the 4 years we've been doing this show now, that the NBA is entirely predictable. Of the two finals, no one can argue to me that the NBA finals are even holding a candle in entertainment value to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals right now. There hasn't been a close game in the NBA Finals. The Cup Finals, it's been 1-goal games. We had an overtime game the last game.
Two overtime games, actually.
Comebacks. Yeah.
Yeah, so come on.
And the current game, and current Game 4, which is currently ongoing, as we're doing this, is a 1-goal game. It's 1-0 Pittsburgh at the end of the first, so plenty of game left there. Obviously, I don't think the score's going to hold, but it's been a close game so far.
My point is this, and I don't know, if you listen to this show, I almost think you almost have to be a hockey fan, but on the off chance that you're not, and you're one of those people that goes,
look at yourself in the mirror and change your life.
But if you're one of those people that say,
I'd like to think there's a dedicated basketball fan base who actually finds our coverage of the NBA amusing. I'd like to think that.
Nobody covers the NBA like we do. I will say that. But my point is that if you're one of those people that says, "Oh, I don't understand hockey. I don't get the rules," you know what? Sit down, take the 5 minutes it'll take to learn the rules, because it's really not that difficult. Trust me. And follow this game, because you're missing out. You're wasting your time watching my Cleveland Cavaliers get their asses handed to them, and you're missing even if this thing only goes 5 games, it's still going to be a very entertaining 5 games in the NHL. You can get a sweep, you can get a 5-game series, it's still a really good series. You can get a 7-game series in the NBA that ain't worth a shit, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, again, a couple years back, I think it was last year, was it? The Winnipeg Anaheim Stanley Cup playoff series, which it was a sweep by the Ducks.
But it was entertaining.
The Ducks swept them, but 3 of those 4 games were really goddamn good hockey games.
Right.
So,
what are we talking about?
What?
Which one are you talking about? I zoned out for a second.
The Anaheim Winnipeg playoff series.
Oh yeah. The Ducks,
it was a sweep, but it was also a very close series. So
the Ducks led for a combined 53 seconds in the first 3 games, and they were up 3-1.
3-0. Yeah. So it's like. And I just don't think that kind of thing is possible in basketball. And I've also never gotten it when people say, "Oh, I don't understand hockey," because it's like, as far as I can remember, the rules of hockey have been just obvious. I mean, then again, Canada, so maybe that has something.
Well, I think that
we're all taught it in nursery schools.
People, they have trouble with icing, which I don't get. How hard? I'll be honest though, I mean, I know what icing is, but when I try to explain it to someone, it's like, well, damn, it's not as easy to explain as you think. But it doesn't take 5 minutes to learn the rules of hockey. I think they don't get offsides, they don't get icing, and those are really the only two that you really need to know. The rest will make sense on its own. And yet they're just like, I don't get it. It's like, it's not that difficult, but I don't want to digress here.
Object of the game is put the little black disc in the big white net.
Yeah.
How about that? That's what you need to know.
I have to think that if someone who didn't get hockey just sat down and watched a game or two, they'd probably get the gist of most of the rules anyway, without it even being explained to them, just by watching the game.
And we don't even have a 2-line pass anymore, right?
No.
So it's not even that to worry about. I don't know. I don't want to go into a whole preach to the choir about hockey, but it's been a good series so far. I think.
I will say the trapezoid rule is stupid, and that needs to go away. But
Martin Brodeur's out of the leagues. I don't think we need it anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty competitive series, and I'm still happy with the results. Go Penguins. It's fine.
I don't really care who wins this.
I just don't want the Sharks to win. That's all.
No, the Sharks don't deserve happiness.
I don't mind if they win. That wouldn't bother me that much.
No, I need them to lose because now I found that Joe Thornton gif, and now I need to do something with it. But I mean, did you see the thing I posted in the thread today?
No.
Oh well, because the fun thing about the series is, if history is to be believed, this is the first ever series between teams with logos that contain triangles, animals in triangles, with hockey sticks.
Hey,
Yeah, look at that.
And so there's an animated GIF I found today of the Sharks logo eating the penguin in the Penguins logo, and Penguins logo becoming the Sharks logo.
I also like, and I know it's
now we know where that stick came from.
I know it's not incredibly accurate, but I still like to say it anyway. 100% expansion, 67 expansion finals.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
CCSLC user Kaz has been referring to the Sharks as the zombie seals. I find that amusing.
The other thing I found, which if you didn't have a reason to think the Sharks were a stupid, petty organization and need to be burned to the ground anyway.
Oh, well, yes.
In their practice facility, and normally in a team's practice facility, they hang up the banners that are in the arena just because you need to show them somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But it came to my attention today, something that I didn't know prior. The Sharks have a banner in their practice facility with the years they have made the playoffs.
Oh, fuck.
It says National Hockey League playoffs, and then it's one banner, so they save space on the one banner, and then they've listed every single year they've made the playoffs.
Oh, fuck you, Sharks.
I don't know why that can't be in the Shark Tank right next to Western Conference regular season champions.
Oh, the poor
This
Sharks.
is the kind of
the Nationals banner for "We haven't been swept yet." So,
I mean, do you see, Greg? Do you see why I don't want the Sharks to win?
I do, yes.
This team this
stupid organization.
They brought it on themselves. They don't deserve true happiness.
Well, they're kind of new at this whole hockey thing. I mean, I guess there's that. Well, they're not really that new anymore. It's been 25 years now.
Speaking of the best part, it made for good jokes during Game 3 or after Game 3. A lot of the Penguins were complaining about the terrible ice and that the puck was bouncing like a football. And so it's like, well, they're not used to having the ice this late in the year.
Oh,
they don't know how to maintain it.
Oh, the poor Sharks.
I remember back when I was a teenager, I remember watching NHL playoffs, and back then, I don't know if it still holds true today. I haven't heard people mention it since then, but the best ice was routinely said to be in Edmonton.
Right.
And the worst ice was Dallas.
Yeah, I think now it's always a fight between L.A., Anaheim, Tampa, Florida, and I guess Dallas. But and then the fight on top was always Edmonton and Calgary, and I guess Winnipeg you could probably throw in there now. Because it's much easier to maintain ice on the tundra than in the Sun Belt.
I was just going to ask. I mean, obviously temperature plays a role, but you would think in a climate-controlled building, it wouldn't be tough to come up with good ice. But I know that down here, starting when the playoffs started, the humidity just gets to the point where I don't know that if you air condition that sucker down to 40 degrees, if it would make any difference. It's still going to screw things up. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a factor of the humidity, and the other thing is that you want the people sitting in the building to be comfortable. Yeah. Like, sure, you could put the building at 30 degrees and make the ice perfect, but if you're somewhere like here or San Jose where it's 75, 80 degrees outside, and there's a lot of people to show up in flip-flops and shorts and their jerseys, do you want them to bring their heavy coats and pants too?
Probably not.
Yeah, yeah, you could say suck it up. It's a hockey game. Like, it's supposed to be cold. But at the same time, you want your fan base to be comfortable.
Oh,
I miss the days of
bunch of pansies in the Sun Belt don't know how to watch a hockey game.
I miss the days of when...
You're going to be one of us pansies in the Sun Belt soon enough, Mike.
You'll understand. I miss the days of when the ice would fog up at Boston Garden, and it happened when I'd go to Gold Diggers games, too. It would get late into the year, and they'd skate around to try to get rid of the fog. It was pretty good stuff.
The first game this season in San Diego with the Gulls, they had that exact problem. They hadn't had a hockey team in that arena in like 15 years or 10 years or something like that. And so the first game, they routinely had to take breaks and just have the players skate around the ice and dissipate the fog.
Yep. I've seen it on TV in Boston. I saw it in person with Toledo. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Those are the good old days, back in the day when there was like no air conditioning in the building and all that. Yeah, good stuff. And you sat on wooden folding chairs. Oh,
God.
Can't beat it, huh? Anyway.
Modern arenas, huh?
That's real hockey.
That's
damn
real
it.
hockey, damn it. You got that right. Got that right.
Well, other hockey news, of course. We have a uniform reveal.
Yes.
We have our good friends down in Sunrise, Florida, tucked between the Everglades and a strip mall.
Right.
Apparently,
One of the finest parking lots you'll ever see.
Apparently, the Lexus rink at BB&T Center in Sunrise is now
Sponsored by
also
Party City.
is now also a military barracks. Did you know?
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers and their Army-inspired uniforms. The logo inspired by the 101st Airborne logo. It's a shield with a stoic panther and the word Florida and or Panthers. The sleeve patch. Note I said sleeve patch because the numbers are on the shoulders because we wanted to make it look like a military uniform. They have a Florida flag with a panther and then these little bars that look like insignia or rank. That normally each one will say Florida or Panthers, whether it's a road or a home jersey. And then if you're the captain or the alternate captain, you get your rank put on your jersey.
Captain Florida.
Which sounds like the best superhero of all time.
Well, I don't know what's better, Captain Florida or alternate Florida. What is alternate Florida?
Alternate Florida, that's Alabama.
Alternate Florida, alternate Panther, Captain Panther.
Captain Florida. No, wait. I've got to explain this to you guys. Captain Florida is a superhero. His arch nemesis is Florida Man. Now, if you guys know who Florida Man is, then you understand that completely.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
The jerseys have like a Montreal Canadiens stripe only on the front of the jersey, not the back. And they're red.
I'll tell you what those sleeve patches that say the bars that say Florida and then they have the captain or assistant. It is a military vibe. This is a Canadian soldier's uniform from World War II. If you'll notice,
does it say Captain Quebec?
No, but you'll notice that on the sleeves there's a little bar that says Canada, like above the insignia on the sleeves, and that's what this reminds me of.
Well, I think that's kind of the point. And on the whole, I don't think they're bad jerseys. I think the logo is a very good shoulder patch.
Yep.
But the package as a whole isn't that bad. It's fine. It's a very decent hockey uniform. But the military stuff just it's too much military stuff.
I don't get the connection.
You could do like one cute little nod. But to do all of that, and then you heard what they're doing with the sleeve patches, right?
No.
You don't get
on the jersey. You're gonna everybody in the preseason. They're gonna start out with the flag patch with the Panther on top of it. If they make the regular season roster, then they will get the Florida or Panthers put above that. And then, of course, if you are elected captain or alternate, you will get the captain bar on top of that one.
Do you get anything for, like, say, if you're a 50 goal scorer, do they throw a little stripe on there too? I mean, is it going to be one of those deals? Like
no.
Little, like rank insignias? Or not necessarily that, but...
No, but so basically next year, Jaromir Jagr is going to come into his locker, and there's going to be no patches on his jersey. They're going to say, you're going to have to earn your stripes, Jagr.
For God's sakes.
Like,
what is the logic behind associating the Florida Panthers in Sunrise, Florida, with the military?
The owner went to West Point.
Yeah, their owner went to West Point and was a member of the 101st Airborne.
That's great, but it doesn't make a damn bit of sense.
No,
I would get it if these guys played in, like, say, Pensacola, where the Blue Angels are, and there's an Air Force or Navy base or whatever it is. But
right, well, that's why the franchise there is the Pensacola Ice Flyers. Shout out to Jeff and the champions of the SPHL, right?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Aren't they the Ice Pilots?
Ice Pilots, something like that. He's posted a lot of pictures of him and the trophy on a beach, and I'm jealous.
Nice. Nice. But I mean, I just don't get it. I'm not a big fan of exploiting the military, because that's what I think this is when you do this kind of shit. If he's from West Point and all that, and it's just a thing that he's way into, I guess I can forgive that, but I still don't understand the association. I just don't.
I will say it makes more sense than when the Ducks did it, because when the Ducks did it, it's just because Brian Burke took a tour of West Point. It was like, that was cool. Let's do that.
Well,
At least this guy actually
there's a military base, Camp Pendleton, right below Orange County. But
is there?
Yeah, it's a big deal in San Clemente, which is the southernmost city in Orange County. But there was the Air Force, the Marine base at El Toro that's right in the middle of the county. It's decommissioned for a long time now. So there is some ties, but it's very tenuous. It's not. It's just something they kind of did. Yeah.
But
okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm going to be the dissenting opinion. I like almost everything about this rebrand.
I don't mind it. It's fine. It's just
the military stuff.
If you get rid of all the faux military garbage and you just had honestly, if you got rid of the Florida bar and it was just a shield shape with the panther on it, and you got rid of the patches and whatever, or even if you put the Florida mark on the shoulder and you put the leaping panther, the updated one on the front of these, I would be down for it. I would love these things, but the military, the overemphasis on the military stuff. Not that I don't like the military, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. It's square peg round hole.
The only thing here, the only thing that I find, the only military aspect about this that I find egregious is the alternate and assistant patches. That's stupid, and then the Florida and Panthers patches on the sleeves. But everything else about these, I like. I really like the new primary logo. And I will say I think it's strong enough to work as a primary.
Looks like a three-way sign.
It looks more – the Panther in the new primary logo looks more like an actual Florida Panther than the old one did, actually. The new alternate logos with the Panther prowling on top of a modified version of the state flag, I think looks really sharp. I think Florida, especially because they got rid of the seal in the center of the state flag and added the sun logo.
I still miss the cross stick and palm tree logo.
That one was cool. But I think that with these modifications, the Florida state flag is one of those flags that has enough simple elements to work as a logo. And they didn't just reproduce the flag. They integrated it. There's that panther on top of it. And I even like the logos on the alternate logos on the sleeves and the numbers on the shoulders. It's not something I think every team should do, but it's always been something I'd wanted to see a team try to do. And I think for one team to do it and just be like, this is our thing, I think it works. I really don't have any complaints. My big fear going into this, when the leaks first came out about what these uniforms would look like, was that I was afraid that they'd end up looking like the Canadians.
Yeah, what do you think about the stripe only being on the front?
I could take it or leave it, honestly. I've seen mock-ups of it all the way around, and I don't know. It doesn't bother me that it's not on the back.
It doesn't bother me in drawings, but the bits I've seen of the actual jerseys on the players, it looks weird because when they're skating around, you're going to see the guys that are facing towards you are going to have a stripe, and the guys facing away from you aren't. It's just kind of.
I think you got to go one way or the other with it. To me, the new logo, the crest logo, to me would work as a great sleeve shoulder patch. Awesome.
See, to me,
I would turn around.
They have is perfect.
I would go with the Panther on top of the Florida flag. That would be the main logo for me. I would flip flop them and put that in the front.
Really?
I think that would look cool. Yep. That's a unique, bold statement by a hockey team to go with something like that. Where I think I said it on the boards. I like all the elements of this. I just don't think they did the best job of throwing them all together.
Again though, my big fear was that they'd end up looking like the Canadians, much like the Lightning look like the Maple Leafs. The fact that the stripe across the chest doesn't use any blue, it's a white stripe with gold bordering. I mean, yeah, it definitely does call to mind the Montreal Canadiens because that is their signature look, but the color balance is so unique between the two teams that I'm not looking at these and thinking, oh, they ripped off the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, it's like I saw somebody say, I don't know if it was on the boards or maybe it was in this UniWatch article, Oh no! You know what? It was actually Vinny Viola himself, or was it his son, Frank Viola?
Vinny the Rich?
Yep.
Wow.
Although the unveiling videos for the unveiling stream for this uniform was nothing short of comedy gold.
It took like 2 hours to finally show the jersey and stuff, right?
And it took like 2 hours, and Vinny Viola, every time he got up to speak, was just rambling like a man who just done too much coke.
Good. Well, it is South Florida.
Yeah. It's John Viola, his son, who oversaw the redesign. He said, and I understand the sentiment, other baseball teams beside the Yankees wear pinstripes.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't do it as well, but they do it.
Right.
I don't have a problem.
I'm not going to say that this is better than the Canadian stripe, but it exists on its own, and it can live in the same league as Montreal's.
I agree with Mike. I think that had it been like blue, and then it's way too evocative of the Canadiens. But this is okay. I don't hate these. I don't know. Part of me thinks they look like something that you would build in NHL 16 when you're building your own franchise. Like that. That's what the logo strikes me as. But it's good. I was never a fan of their prior look. I think I like this a little bit better, but I'm not entirely crazy about it.
I think people have been over fetishizing the the inaugural Panthers look.
I really like that. I own one of those jerseys, the inaugural Panther jerseys. They're gorgeous.
Well, yeah, didn't you say that you saw it on eBay and it was like the picture was in the swamp?
Yeah, it was some guy standing on a pier in the Everglades, and it was like $20. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll take it.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a good-looking uniform, but people who have been talking about it, like, oh, I can't believe they went to this. They should have just gone back to their inaugural look. And it's like, okay, yeah, their inaugural look was good, but you know, it's not like they were the Montreal Canadiens or the Detroit Red Wings who had this untouchable classic. Like,
right.
Like my attitude about it has always been that, yeah, the Panthers' previous looks, and I will say that that their now former look that they just abandoned, which wasn't the inaugural look, but I thought it was a more or less close approximation of it.
Yeah, it's as good as they can do with the edge.
Yeah. And so I kind of like, okay, it's not a bad look by any stretch of the imagination. And in a vacuum, yeah, they could probably keep it forever and be perfect, and it would be perfectly fine. Problem is, we've talked about it on the show, we've talked about it elsewhere. The Florida Panthers have floundered in irrelevancy for so long that it's almost kind of damaged the brand through no fault of the brand itself. It's still a very strong brand, but it just got marred by irrelevant, shitty hockey teams. And this isn't Toronto, where the team can suck for a decade and still be the talk of the town. You can't do that in South Florida. So shaking things up, getting a new uniform, getting new logos, and getting people interested in the brand and getting new eyes on it for like the first time in years, it's not the worst idea from a marketing standpoint to say, let's shake things up a bit.
What do you think of the updated Panther that they kept around as a tertiary logo for the helmet?
It looks like it has club feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's them trying to simplify it, and it's probably a little too far. But if you take those back legs out of the equation, I like the rest of it.
Definitely. I definitely see that getting slapped on a third uniform, on a third sweater, within 2 years or whenever the league lets them.
Yeah.
I'm Leo, the club-footed Panther.
Well,
I know. Come on.
You saw the club feet, right, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just. I get what they were going for.
Somebody suggested, and I thought it was good, is if they took and I like this idea, if you took the jerseys, got rid of the military patches, put that Florida crest on the shoulders, and then put the updated Panther head on the stripe, I think that
might be interesting.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
I think it's a good look. I like it better than the old look, even the inaugural look, believe it or not. I've never been a big fan of their look before this. I I don't know. There's just something about it. It seems like that they didn't either go quite far enough, or they went a little too far, and I can't decide which. But
I will say,
I want to see him on the ice. I got to see him on the ice. I got to see him in real life too. I haven't seen him yet.
I will say I really like the primary compared to what I thought it was going to look like when I first heard it was going to be based on the 101st Airborne logo. I was imagining this really rough, sketchy-looking Panther illustration that tried too hard to be like realistic, like a military tattoo or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that it is instead an actual, kind of, it is a nice illustration makes me go, okay, well, that's better than it could have been.
Yeah.
A lot of my opinions on this, and maybe maybe this explains why I'm so positive about it, is I was expecting so much worse when the first descriptions of this look came out. I was like, oh no, and then and then it comes out. It's like, oh, well, all right, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think that's my feeling too. Is I was expecting so much worse, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, these are fine. I mean, I
want to see them, and I want to see the real thing. All I'm seeing are illustrations and stuff now. But like I said, I don't hate it.
I will say that the
maybe it's that I think the chess logo's not big enough.
I will say that I think the I get the idea of wanting to integrate the Florida State flag, because I think the Florida State flag has a design that lends itself to logos in and of it's pretty basic, all things considered. I think they went a bit overboard with the flag symbolism with like the laces on the collars.
I think that's subtle. I actually like that.
It's like oh well, the jersey's white and we put these two crossed red ones. It's call back to the flag. It's like, is it really a call back to the flag, or did you just put red laces on a white? I would have
never in a million years thought of that if you had not pointed it out. So that tells you how well it worked.
Yeah,
it would have never even occurred to me.
Here's my other problem with the logo. The primary logo there is that it looks exactly like the other Florida Cat Pro Sports.
I will say it looks better than the Jags.
Yeah, but it's still very on purpose like that. It's a little too on the nose.
Well, my favorite NFL comparison wasn't with the Jags. It was someone during the unveiling actually asked, I think it was the owner's son, doesn't this look a little bit too much like the Carolina Panthers logo?
Yeah, some lady asked them that. It's like, no, not at all.
But like,
they're not even the same colors.
But again, like that just goes to show how like the lay people understand these things. And I've told the story before, but when the Blue Jays went to their current kind of throwbacky look, my mom actually went, "Oh, good. I thought the one that they had been using looked too much like the Seahawks logo." And it again, like it's hard for us to understand because we're into this sort of thing. But to the lay person, they just see big cat logo. Oh, okay.
There's the actual jerseys, Greg.
You know what? After seeing the pictures, I like them a lot better. I'm going to give them an A.
Solid B. They could be better, but they're not terrible. They're good.
On a scale from 1 to 10, it's at least a mega wicked.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach's Tabs.
Zach's Tabs!
Our favorite sporting event every season that we just can't wait for. The Pro Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
News last week, there's been a change to the Pro Bowl format.
No way? Really?
Yeah.
Because it's been so consistent over the years. I'm surprised they would mess with it.
They will be going back to the AFC, NFC formats.
Okay.
And the game will be played in, drumroll, Orlando, Florida.
Hey, I can go this time. Mike, you can go too.
Do you want to do a Bass report live from the Pro Bowl?
I think we absolutely have to, don't we? Yeah. I mean, come on.
You know what? I'm down.
Team practices will be held at the ESPN Wild World of Sports Complex at Walt Disney World Resorts.
I just think it would be great that for the first time in the history of the show, we do a live hit from an event, and it's the Pro Bowl.
The sporting event of the calendar year.
All right.
This is also part of a reimagined Pro Bowl week. You could be a part of this, guys.
No.
Oh, God.
The Pro Bowl AFC and NFC practices will be held alongside youth football competitions activities, and fan events at the Wide World of Sports complex. The 2017 Pro Bowl players will also be able to invite their former youth or high school coach to be part of the celebrations that week.
And why would we want to see that? I mean, I'm serious. Why the fuck would Mike and I want to go see that? I'm just asking.
Players of the winning Pro Bowl team will receive a grant from the NFL Foundation to support their youth or high school football program. The annual USA Football National Conference will take place that week. The Don Shula NFL High School Coach of the Year Award winner will be announced during the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, keep me away.
Whoa, well, now that I didn't want to, but now that you mentioned that, we've got to go. Go ahead.
It was early for January 29th. Pro Bowl.
Well, I'm marking my calendar right now.
Right, because you just never know whose high school coach might show up.
That's what I'm trying to tell you about.
So I want to talk about another favorite event of ours, shitting on the Olympics and the IOC. So remember, we're supposed to be having the Olympics in Rio this summer.
Yeah, that's right.
Have they bulldozed more slum children?
It's funny that you mentioned.
Now that I'd go watch.
Olympic slum children bulldozing.
It's funny that you mentioned Olympic construction because, well, so the Olympics are in August, right?
Yeah.
You think it'd be probably pretty good to have all the buildings built by, June?
Didn't matter in Sochi.
Exactly.
The Olympic Velodrome, aka where they have the indoor cycling races,
Okay.
is 75 to 80% built, depending on who you ask.
And this thing's in 2 months.
And the company that had the contract to build it, well, it went bankrupt, so they had to get somebody else to start finishing the building.
Oh, man.
It's not going to be done in time for any... It was supposed to be done already, so they could do practice races. So the first event that will be held in this building is going to be the actual Olympic event for cycling.
So we could see a disaster of epic proportions when all of these bikes start skidding out, right out the gate.
And the best part is, too, this isn't one of those temporary things. They're trying to build this thing so it can reignite some sort of renaissance in Brazilian cycling.
Talk about a worthy crusade.
Right.
So, again, according to they have to find the right Siberian lumber and build a track that will be used for a total of 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay. How much will this Siberian lumber cost for 5 days of use?
The building was going to cost, at the very least, $43 million.
For a bicycle racing track?
Yes.
Wow.
Go down. You could go down to the school I work at. We got a fucking track that'll work just as well, and we don't have.
Are you sure they're not paving it with Siberian gold or something? I mean, what the hell?
Again, it's an investment to, quote, spark a track cycling renaissance in South America.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
The Olympics. That's the kind of crap that makes me sad that they didn't just grant the Winter Olympics to Kazakhstan, because could you imagine the gong show that would have been?
I think it makes the Olympics more interesting now, though. It's always a race against the clock to get everything finished. You never know quite what's going to happen.
Weren't the Olympics so boring when they were held in first world countries that had all of the arenas built in time? I mean, that was just so dull.
Right. Like in Sochi, we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. That's what made it exciting.
Stephen A. Smith said a dumb thing.
Again?
What are the odds?
This was just today. LeBron was being criticized for his record in the finals or something like that. And Jerry West, who is an executive with the Warriors, spoke out and was basically defending LeBron. So, despite this not having anything to do with the question he was asked, Stephen A. Smith started off his answer by giving us a reasoning for him why he believes that Jerry West does not deserve to be the silhouette on the NBA logo.
I have profound respect for Jerry West, but I will tell you, he doesn't deserve to be the NBA silhouette. The NBA needs to get with modern times and understands, first of all, most basketball fans don't know who the hell Jerry West was as a player, and even if you did know, regardless of your greatness, and you were great, 8 finals losses in 9 tries. That is below mediocre. There's a gentleman who owns the Charlotte Hornets. His name is Michael Jordan. That's who should be the NBA silhouette, and they need to change the damn thing immediately.
What kind of douchebag gets a question like that, and it goes off on like that weird tangent like that? You know?
I don't know.
But then again, that's what kind of douchebag that Stephen A. Smith does.
I think what Stephen A. Smith's real problem is that's probably just that it's a white guy is the logo. Not to bring race into it, but I think.
Well, Stephen A. Smith has brought race into shit before, so you're not off base to suggest that. Yeah,
but when I try to think of like silhouette logos, it's the NBA and the MLB, and like, is anyone calling for Harmon Killebrew to not be the baseball logo?
That's the thing. People can't even agree if it really actually is Harmon Killebrew, but it's just a rumor. There's never been a confirmation that it's actually him. God, Stephen A. Smith's such a fucking idiot.
I mean, okay, no disrespect to Jerry West, but I don't think he's even on people's minds when they see the NBA logo. I mean, if anything, he's just sort of like an interesting trivia fact. Like, oh, did you know that the NBA logo is a silhouette of Jerry West? It's like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. Whatever.
That Jerry West was a great player in the league, and that you don't care what his final record is. You're like, oh, that's neat. He's the logo. Cool.
Well, that's the thing.
He's the NBA logo. He is one of the greats. That's cool.
But that's the thing, though. People talk about LeBron when he loses his finals, and they will lose. His 2-5 record in the finals. I mean, I didn't realize Jerry West had played in that many finals. So when they talk about it's going to ruin his legacy, is it really? 40 years later, I'm not thinking, oh, Jerry West had a terrible record in the finals. I just think he played for a Lakers championship team and he's the logo. That's what I remember. So they can take that shit and shove it, too, with LeBron and his legacy and all that.
I know it veers into uncomfortable territory, but I'm going to have to echo what Zach said. I think he's just pissed off that it's a white guy on it. That's the kind of bullshit that Stephen A. Smith has dabbled in the past, and you know what, if that wasn't his intent, well, then he only has himself to blame for people assuming that's what he meant.
We can't say for certain that's what it is, but I don't think anyone would be surprised if that were why he was pissed off about it.
If that is the case, I've never heard of any black NBA star being angry that there is a white guy on the NBA logo, because I don't think anyone really knows that it's Jerry West. It's just a silhouette of a person playing basketball.
The last story here, and this is the one that we talked about earlier, and why I will never, ever watch a UFC fight ever again.
Imagine fighting's where it's at, folks.
Well, let's see. Imagine, if you will, we could be in a world where Major League Baseball could take away Ken Rosenthal's credentials and ban him for life from ever covering Major League Baseball ever again. Or if the NFL could kick Adam Schefter out of a game, take his credential, and ban him from covering the NFL ever again. That's what happened with the UFC and writer Ariel Helwani of MMAfighting.com. UFC 199 was over the weekend. During the show, Ariel Helwani, before the main event had started, he had tweeted out Brock Lesnar was going to fight at UFC 200. He was reporting the news. He was doing his job. So before the main event had started, building security and UFC staff escorted him out of the building, took his credential away, and banned him for life from covering UFC, any UFC event ever again, along with two of his colleagues that also work for MMAfighting.com.
Someone on the UFC beat was reporting on a UFC competitor. Stop the goddamn presses.
Right. So I think what happened here is Dana White and UFC, they were mad because they wanted to be the ones to make the big announcement. They were going to do it later. I think later in the broadcast, they were going to make the big announcement, Brock Lesnar at UFC 200. But they got beat to the punch by a reporter.
In this day and age, with the media being as fast as it is, it's very difficult to hold something like that back and not have it get out ahead of time. It's just hard to do. Why they would hold that against them, I think they should be happy that the guy gives enough of a fuck about their stupid sport to cover it in the first place.
It's 2016. Very rarely does an organization get to break their own news anymore.
The only thing similar that I can think of in any in the big sports when it came to the NFL draft, they weren't pleased when somebody like Schefter would, like a minute before the pick was made, would say, oh, the Vikings have picked X. It's another example of the UFC being, and specifically Dana White, being one of the most thin-skinned, really petty and vindictive guys in all.
Dana White is a goddamn clown and has been for years.
Don't you run the risk of when you do stuff like this of getting legitimate journalists to cover your sport? I mean, why? I mean, I just understand. I mean, you're and again, this is no knock on WWE wrestling, but it is what it is. But you get rid of legitimate news source or news coverage and the legitimate media people, and you start controlling your own message like that, like a way that they apparently want to here, and you're veering awfully close to being not legit anymore, I think.
Well, you know what it makes UFC, because the thing UFC will always tell you, well, they're not pro wrestling. We actually fight. When you're doing garbage like this, you're one step away from being pro wrestling. Exactly,
because pro wrestling, anyone who's followed pro wrestling can tell you, Vince McMahon loves to control the flow of information and how, the narrative of how his product is presented. And you know what? No one gives Vince any real degree of shit for that, because at the end of the day, it is all staged. So why not just stage the presentation too? But if you are a legitimate professional fighting organization, then you've got to accept that you're like the NFL, you're like Major League Baseball, right. And sometimes reporters are going to get a scoop and they're going to run with it.
You start controlling your own message like that, and you're just the WWE. And it's very hard to take you seriously when you won't let legitimate journalists cover your product. If you want to be seen as legitimate, you've got to be transparent.
This is still a sport that fights for coverage. And if you can get somebody that covers your sport in a legitimate way, too, it's not like the guy was trashing on UFC or trying to take it down. This was something he loved, and loved the sport and the organization to an extent. And he gets kicked out for, again, covering the sport, giving it some exposure, and doing his job.
That it?
That's it.
You know the routine, folks. At Basically Sports on Twitter. Subscribe via iTunes, Spreaker, YouTube, and Stitcher. Find us on Facebook. Any final thoughts, guys?
Brock Lesnar.
We'll see you next time.